Welcome to the new IT. The new IT, where we talk about the stuff that's coming in the future of IT, right, Brad?
Absolutely.
Is it? It's the future, people. This is a sci-fi podcast. Okay, maybe not a sci-fi podcast. We're not going to talk about Star Wars or Return of anything.
I can't even say that I've watched any recent episodes of those, so yeah, we're not going down that path.
Oh, man. Okay. You're classic, not a nerd. Not a classic nerd.
Maybe.
It depends on, because nerds have their paths, don't they?
They do. Absolutely, they do.
Which leads us to, what is the show about today? The title, culture. What are we talking about today?
All about culture, what it has to do with, why you should hire for culture, why you shouldn't hire for culture.
Hey, I like it. I wanna set the stage with this episode by asking the question: what exactly does culture mean? What does that mean when we're talking? When you're looking for hire and you're asking questions to a potential client and all that? What are you thinking when you think of what's the culture of this company? I just kind of want to understand. We hear the word culture all the time. What is it?
All right. So from the client aspect, I like to understand what it is the mission is of the company. What are they trying to accomplish? Where do they want to go? What is their goals, and how are they going to get there? That helps me from a recruitment standpoint understand and know what type of candidate is going to be best for them. From the candidate side, I also like to make sure that they do fit that model as well. So making sure that I have enough knowledge about that company is going to allow me to be able to find that perfect talent for them.
And how do you, when I think of culture, I mean, in my head, culture is, do they have foosball tables in the middle of the building? Do they have I had a buddy that had a software company, and he had a Zen room where they had an actual room that had little Reiki music going on and had incense and had these reclining chairs, and it was like mandatory to spend at least 15 minutes in the Zen room at his company. I mean, when I think of culture, I think of weird crap like that.
I mean, I think that's part of it, but I mean, ultimately culture is understanding the vision of where the company's going and how you can fit into the model of where the company's going. If you can see yourself to be part of that, in my opinion, that's culture, and that's what really companies are looking for, to see does this candidate fit within what we're trying to do.
So truthfully, culture can be a lot. I mean, it's a word we throw around a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's broad what it means and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Is one culture better or worse for a potential hire? I mean, or is there better fits? Is better different cultures? Let me ask this question. Now that I've thought about this, does culture matter? I mean, does it matter?
I think it really just depends on the individual. But yes, I mean, for some
individual
people,
being hired, or
correct.
Both? Or
both. I mean, for both parties. I mean, obviously, candidates want to go and they want to work for a company that do have the perks, that are making sure that they're taking care of their staff and their employees. But their culture may be something completely different. So they may be okay with that. So it really just depends on what the company culture is and what the mission is of the company and what they stand for.
Does it matter? I mean, does it matter what they stand for, or that I get paid really good and I get a good vacation package and really good insurance? That has nothing to do with culture, does it? And
in my opinion,
do I
no.
care?
No, it has not. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with culture.
And don't we talk about that all the time? Doesn't that seem like, oh yeah, I'm going to make the most money I can. I'm going to go to a company that gives me dental for really cheap and really good insurance.
Those are added, in my opinion, those are added perks. Those are things.
They're not the most important. Are they overriding culture? Are those more important than the culture fit? If I get offered, $40,000 more than I was making at my other place, do I really care what their culture is like?
Well, I mean, I think that has to do from an individual standpoint. Every person is going to have to understand what
One
their
guy
value
might
set
not.
is.
One person may not care, and another person's like, you know what? You're not my. I'm going to have to say you're not a fit for me.
Exactly. So, I mean, it ultimately just depends on the person.
Culture,
and what
culture,
their value is.
culture can mean three different things. That's why in
Absolutely.
my head, that was my thought about the title. There's more than one way to look at this culture thing, and if it matters. I think the end result after talking with you just now is that culture can matter.
Yeah, I mean, it should. I mean, culture,
Oh, you think it should matter?
for most individuals, yes, it should matter. I mean, it really depends on the individual, but company culture helps companies prove what they're doing is valuable, and they culture helps you have buy-in into that company, making sure that you want to stay there and continue to do the work that you're doing.
So it's so vague.
It is.
This culture thing is so vague. What's bad culture? What would that look? What does bad culture look like? What would that even mean?
To me, in my opinion of bad culture, overworking your employees, not giving benefits in terms of showing value, a manager writing you hard just to make sure that you get this one project done and not saying thank you.
Okay, I'm thinking everything you just said is like the beginning at Microsoft or the beginning at Amazon. Everything you just said, anything I've ever heard about when Microsoft first started, there was 80-hour work weeks. Nobody slept. Your manager was like, dude, you have to be here with us. Apple, same thing. They worked their asses off. I mean, their culture was die working.
Eat, breathe, and sleep everything you do for this company. Yeah.
And I guess that was their culture. So was that bad?
No, I mean, look at where they're at now.
I know
mean, so no.
the proof is in the pudding, right?
Exactly.
But
However,
everybody, yeah, go ahead.
I do think that we are in a different time now. I mean, I believe that because of social media and people want work-life balance, people will work harder now just as much as they did then, but they're going to do it on their terms.
Yes.
So culture is very important in that regard, to make sure that you're fitting their needs and their values, to be able to say, okay, yes, go work remote, go work whenever, as long as the job gets done. Doesn't really matter how it gets done.
And back then, most of those people knew they were a part of something game-changing.
Oh, absolutely.
Something that was going to change the world. And who wouldn't want to work your butt off to be a part of that?
Exactly.
Which was a culture. It was a culture set. The culture was, and I don't think they were pushed, like whips. They were like all wanting to stay up till midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, because they knew they were creating the culture that was there. Was I've read a few biographies on Steve Jobs, and one of his interview questions is, "Have you dropped acid?"
Wow.
That's a culture set. He said, I don't know if I can trust anybody that hasn't dropped acid before.
Fair enough. And like I said, I mean, yes, that's a culture fit, but you're buying in and you're seeing the vision of where the company's going. So they're not necessarily buying into the culture itself. They're buying into the vision of the company, and that's where that culture kind of gets created.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to me. Now that we started talking, and I'm thinking about the old giants now, which were, the babies then.
Absolutely.
It is interesting to think culture then. And
absolutely.
It was craziness. And now we've got companies that don't have management. Their culture is, we just kind of run ourselves. And in 20, 30 years ago, that's insane. You could not do that. You can't run a company without having bosses. There's no way that will work. And I can't remember which are the companies that are doing that. Was it? Anyway, I know I've read a few of them. Have you heard about the ones that don't have managers and
No, I haven't.
supervisors?
I mean, this is new to me. So I mean,
really?
We're
going to have to look that up later. We're going to have to look up I want to say Zappos, but I can't remember which big company has no real management. They have like team leaders and stuff, but no actual management.
Call me crazy, but I would still consider that some sort of like management or structure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we probably, I mean, we're going down a road that neither of us really understands or knows, but I know that is a thing. I know that is a thing, which sounds crazy, and it's working for certain companies. So we're going to do some research. Maybe we'll touch back on that.
Maybe that's a future episode. I mean, I'm intrigued by it. I mean, I think it makes sense, and I could see, if structured correctly, I think that's something that possibly could work. So I could see some validity in that.
Yeah, and I think if you hire, a lot of it comes down to hiring the right people that know their job and can do it and move forward. But that's interesting. We went down a different path, but it's but it's still culture. Even that is what I think of when I think of culture. The mindset in the company, is that culture?
In my opinion, culture is the vision of the company. It's where the company's going, and you're buying into the vision of the company, and you are doing whatever everybody else does, so to speak, within that company.
Like Microsoft back then when they were blowing up, or Apple. You were a part of the Appleites.
Exactly.
You were creating something.
But you were so
big.
excited about it, you couldn't help but to want to be more involved into it. So you just did it constantly.
Yeah, even later in the 2000s when Facebook came around, the developers and stuff, they would stay up all night long doing hackathons and crazy stuff. So, I mean, that's working hard is not necessarily, when I talked about what's a bad culture, working hard isn't a bad culture, right?
No. I mean, I think of culture.
Unless you don't want to work hard.
Right? Well, if you do, then that's something completely different. But I look at culture as how are you engaging your staff? How are you engaging your employee workforce? Are you treating them well? Are you giving them extra perks? That's part of culture, but it doesn't have anything to do with working hard or setting boundaries.
Yeah, I remember reading something about, again, somebody else, Jeff Bezos. Early days of Amazon, he was brutal. I mean, they said everybody was expected to just work, eat, sleep, and breathe. And if you didn't, you were gone.
Interesting.
I'm just saying what I've read. That's
yeah.
So, with that said, that makes me wonder if understanding the vision of the company and understanding that you're a part of something makes it different. Where am I going?
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, based off of that, like the way I structure my company is I want people to understand what our vision is and where we want to go and how we want to get there. It's my job as a leader, as an employer, to be able to get them on that side.
And with all those thoughts, it makes a culture.
Exactly.
Because they're focusing on those
exactly.
things.
They see the end line.
Purposeful.
They see where we're trying to go, and they want to be a part of that journey.
Which leads me then, so is that, I had the question, how do you purposefully create a culture?
In my opinion, it starts with leading by example. No matter what position. Top down. No matter what position you're looking to fill, you need to be able to put yourself in their shoes and to be able to do that job. And if you can't do that job, then you need to reassess what it is you're looking for people to do in that capacity of that job.
I've heard, I'm just on a rant about books. I was reading an Elon Musk biography, and at SpaceX he has a cubicle down there, and that's his office. He just has a cubicle with the rest of the folks. He doesn't have an office. That is like what you're saying is they're willing.
He wants
to be a part of what's happening, not the big special thing up on the hill looking down at all of the minions.
He wants to be on the ground floor, engaged with everybody, making sure that he's
and that sets a culture that says, and I'm sure even Microsoft and Apple back then, I'm sure Bill and Steve and Steve, I'm talking about all the guys at Apple and
Microsoft.
And Microsoft. we're right there with all those folks working 80 hours a day.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah. So or 80 hours a day. Hopefully that's impossible. So
I would think
unless
so.
they had some kind of a time thing. Time
Maybe
machine.
that's what they created. Who knows?
Yeah, that's why they got so much time. So they do talk about Steve Jobs' reality distortion field. Have you ever heard that term?
I haven't, no.
Supposedly he had this, he would go around and say, this is how it's going to work. And the developers or whatever are like, dude, we can't do that. He's like, yes, you can do that.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that other than purposeful.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is culture like within your company?
Ooh, interesting. Wow, put me on the spot. I like that.
A little bit.
Yeah. So I am a very big proponent of caring about my employees. And they know that. They know that I really care about them and I've got their back. My company's fairly small, so I don't have hundreds of people to look over or take care of. But they do know how much I actually care about them. They come to me with personal problems and stuff, and I'm here. I've read books that says as a business owner or as a boss, you should not be involved with your employees as far as on a personal level, and I personally I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I just care about them. That my whole culture of employees is if I show them love, true love and caring, that I worry about them and want to. I had an employee and I said, you know what, you're one of the best employees I've ever had, and I worry about you more than anybody else because of certain different things. And it was just we could talk like that. Because we had that
You're
kind
open.
of a relationship. Yeah, they can tell me exactly how they feel. They know, Bobby, this effing sucks. What the, they could do, and I'm not going to take it personal. I'm going to listen to them. And if a client or somebody came back and said, hey, this blah blah blah, they know that I've got their back, unless they did do something crappy.
Right. As long as they're not messing anything up from the client side.
My guys and gals know that I've got their back, and I'm really, I don't have a company without them. Nothing great has ever been done alone, and so I just have so much respect and caring for employees, and I think that is the kind of culture that we set. And I really believe that if you want strong customer service, then treat your employees with respect.
Oh, and I 100% agree with you on that one. I think you have to.
You do, and when I am treated badly by a company's person, some people would say, well, yeah, what do they care? It's this big giant company. Well, that tells me that big giant company doesn't give a shit about them. I mean, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't care.
I agree.
And you can be a giant billion-dollar company and still care about your employees. I believe that 100%.
Yeah. I mean, case in point, I mean, look at Apple, look at Google, look at Zappos. I mean, they care about their employees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that ties into the company culture of understanding the mission and understanding where they want to go, and that's how it ties in.
Yeah.
So, but from that same standpoint, I am a firm believer that companies shouldn't hire specifically for culture. Culture is something that is embraced. It's something that you need to see if a candidate is a good fit.
So when you say that, you're saying we don't go into an interview just thinking, hey, is this person like us? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And you shouldn't. I mean, you want to take it with a grain of salt. You want to look at it and say, how does this person fit our culture? Do they have the skills? Do they have the talent? Do they have the drive to be able to be part of our culture? Do they share our shared vision? Do they see where we want to go? Do they want to contribute to this?
And I go back to the thought, don't I, as a potential person, don't I really just care about how much money you're going to give me?
No, I mean, it's funny you say that, but there are surveys out there that actually say candidates will take less money for culture fit, for being part of something bigger than themselves. So when you are interviewing people, if you probe beneath the surface and you do ask those questions, that's really where your true gold is going to be, and that's where you're going to understand if this candidate is a good fit for for your company.
It kind of makes me think about the bigger company, the Microsofts and all that stuff, that if we can recreate that kind of a desire and that kind of a culture of, hey, we're creating something amazing here, we're changing the world, I want to be a part of that, and especially in the millennial now. The millennials, they're all about being a part of something
bigger than themselves.
Yeah, they're about this culture of and if you can do that and set that kind of a culture in your company, you're going to get top talent. Is that not a good way to think, or is it?
No, absolutely, and that's the way you should be thinking. Is you should, again, I know I've stressed this through the episode, but having that shared mission and making sure that people buy into the vision, that's really is where you're going to find your great hires, because they're gonna want to be part of that, and they're gonna want to continue to grow there. Why do you think companies continue? Why do you think people still continue to apply to Apple, Google, Facebook? It's because they've created the culture that people want to be a part of. That's where they get thousands of resumes every day.
Yeah, but my company creates a widget that keeps your toilet seat from squeaking. How can I get people excited about that?
Well, you got to understand what it is you're doing. So from that standpoint, you got to make
We're
sure.
changing the world.
Hey, everybody's got to go to the bathroom.
Everybody's going. That's right.
So you are changing you're helping people by changing the world, by allowing them to go to the bathroom.
Make less noise.
And make less noise.
And I guess we laugh and it is funny, but you can set a culture that says, hey, our company is doing something great. No matter what it is, you can have that kind of a mindset. Is that now?
Absolutely.
As we've talked about this, I've come kind of full circle. I've always believed that the culture is really important, but to me, culture was always about just treating your employees with respect. But it's a lot deeper than that.
Oh no, culture is way deeper. It goes to the core fundamentals of the company. What are you about? What is your vision? How are you impacting people? How are you impacting the world?
And I think the big thing here that I'm hearing or getting out of it is, you should be purposeful with your creating culture.
Agreed. And
because your culture is created no matter what. But if you actually are purposeful, then you can steer it where it will assist you in getting the best hires, the best technology, the best everything. Wouldn't you say? If you're purposeful.
If you're purposeful. But having said that, getting the right hires, you have to, that's something in maybe another episode, but you have to make sure that you are engaging your full team. You can't just expect your HR team to fill all these roles. That just doesn't work that way. Talent acquisition is really a beast of its own, and it takes on a life breath of its own. So being able to task HR with it when they already have 15,000 other things, they're not going to have the time to really vet these candidates like you need.
And that's where you come in, right?
Indeed.
That is where you take the time to not only find the right person, but also find the right person that understands the culture they're going to. Is that a part of it?
That is.
Where when you get a person that is looking for a job, you make sure, hey, this company really probably fits you best.
Exactly.
Do you actually do that?
We do. So
you take the time.
Those are the questions that we ask our clients and our candidates. We ask them culture questions to make sure we understand what it is they value, and we try to find like companies to each of them.
Wow, this has been interesting. We went down an interesting path. We kind of talked about some things that I wasn't thinking about when we started this whole thing. You got any last words? I think I've come to the conclusion that culture matters.
Absolutely.
And being purposeful matters, but it isn't the only thing that matters.
No, culture is vision, and culture is sharing with your team where you want the company to go, and that's the culture that you want to set, and you want to set a good culture. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, cool. This was I think this was a good discussion. We will see you next time for the new IT.